himself, Mr. Scary, George Lynch. How are you, sir?
Hi.
Well, it's hard to know where to even start, but it's just such a great pleasure to have you on the show. And when I found out you had a new album coming, I said, we've got to get George on here. We've got to get George on here. So to start with, I guess we better start with what's new and then go backwards. So you've got the new End Machine Phase 2 album coming out.
Yeah, April 9th, I believe.
Yeah.
And they just dropped their video today, I think. Crack the Sky video came out.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to it. I was really lucky because I've heard the whole album, and I gotta say it's a great album, first of all, and secondly, I think it feels my pleasure, and it feels like less, maybe a step away, a progression from the bluesier side of the first album to something more 80s, something more familiar to fans of like Dokken and Lynch Mob. Was that your intention, or is that just organic?
Oh, it was definitely our intention. We were very sort of fixated on the idea of doing that, what you just mentioned. So, yeah, I thought you described the first one as a little bluesier. I think it was, and it was also a little more 70s and had like this disparity of different elements scattered throughout the record. So there wasn't this kind of this focus or this connecting commonality throughout all the songs that tied it all together and glued it together. There wasn't that. It was interesting to listen to, and it was a little self-indulgent here and there. So we decided to tighten all that up, like you said, and make it a little more focused and really focus on the hooks.
Yeah.
And making it gratifying, but also digestible and accessible.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, as soon as I heard the rising intro into Blood and Money, I thought it's familiar in the best kind of way, because it felt like, something you would get out of Lock and Chain or that kind of, something from the 80s, but it felt like a contemporary version of that.
Yeah. At some point, I mean, I do a lot of different projects and write different songs for different things. And at some point you kind of like, well, you got to give people what they want. I do that with, I mean, there's a thing about musicians, we want to do everything and we want to try all these experiment, and we're pulled in different directions, and we want to keep expanding our horizons and all that. And that's all well and good. But, you also have I think an obligation and responsibility to serve the people that have served you well and allowed you to do what you do. And and you've created a certain thing and sold people a certain thing on a certain formula or whatever sound, whatever style. And to a certain extent you become a slave to that, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all have jobs, and we have to grow up and be responsible and do what we're supposed to do and give people what they want. You don't want to be this reluctant astronaut that's always running away from people, the thing that you have created. I get it, we're artists, and there's that part. So we made a concerted effort to do that on this record. I said, let's really give people what a majority of people really are kind of screaming for, which is whatever that was. And so to do that, we thought, well, we're not going to copy what we've done in the past, which is very hard to do, by the way. But we're going to try to put ourselves in the mindset that we were in, and what was that formula that we had, and what were our priorities, and what was the process? How did we actually write? And that's what we did. And I think with good results, pretty good results.
I think they're definitely great results. I mean, that sound of you and Jeff Pilson, together locked in like that is something just no one else can replicate that. No one else can get that vibe on record.
I like to say that we're like an old married couple that can finish each other's sentences,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have that. It kind of takes me on to the next question. Was has your approach to writing music changed over the years?
Fundamentally, no. I mean, it's just like if I wasn't Skyping with you right now, I'm sitting here with my guitar on. All I do is sit here and if I practice and I get an idea, that idea goes on my little voice memo thing we all have on our iPhones.
Yeah.
And I've got hundreds of ideas saved, and those all just become songs. And The only difference is in the 70s, I would use a cassette, and in the 80s, I'd use a Fostex X15
Mhm.
4-track or a little Sony Walkman Pro.
Yeah.
Different methods of recording those ideas, but it was all basically the same, and those would be seeds for new songs. I mean, it really hasn't changed. I mean, I talk about that with, for instance, Jeff and I discussed that, and we go, why can't we be like real songwriters, like in Nashville, where we write the melody first,
Yeah.
not the guitar. Don't put the guitar away, or sit down on a piano.
Yeah.
Like real song, like Bernie Taupin and Elton John,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Beatles or the Stones, or like really big giant real songwriters that are professional and paid to do this kind of thing and are really good at it, and it's like a science. Like, why can't we be like that? Because this is writing with this is constricting in some ways. It's limiting because the fretboard is just kind of laid out in a certain way that it's not like
sure.
and it's not like a voice. So
I
would like to do that.
Comes naturally. Yeah.
And maybe the argument is, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Do what you do. Don't do what you do well instead of doing what somebody else does badly.
Yeah. I get that.
I don't know. Well, a couple of looking at it, I guess.
Yeah. I was listening. I mean, you've been very busy recently because I was listening to the album that you and Jeff did together, the Heavy Hitters cover record.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really enjoying that. And there were some songs there that caught me off guard. I never expected to hear you doing Champagne Supernova and all that kind of stuff. But it came out really, really well.
So, it was so fun to do. And that was the thing of that. We didn't have to write. We were talking about writing, but we didn't have to do that. We didn't have to sit down and go, well, what's our formula and where are we going to create something from nothing? It was already there. So we put all our energies into just having fun with it, and we had to change it stylistically and come up with new ways to play the parts and stuff. But, that's not that hard. And so it was just really, like, I would say it was more enjoyable than doing a traditional record because we're having such a good, a lot of fun with it. I mean, the hardest thing was picking the songs, that was the biggest challenge. Once we had them picked out, it was and it was also kind of fun because you don't know how it's going to come out, until
for sure.
I mean, how should we do that? I mean, there's so many roads and avenues you could take on a song like the Joan Osborne song. And I have to admit, I was influenced. My idea that I brought to Jeff, I wanted to do it perfect circle style. Their version of the John Lennon song Imagine.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's what we're going for.
Yeah.
So we did. And I admit it, I mean, it was, we're pulling ideas from other people and stylistically and stuff. And that's what made it fun. Because I never cover band, so I kind of got to live out my cover band fantasies.
It was a great record. I mean, you and, like you said, you and Jeff have got, such a long history together of writing, and of course, being in bands together. I wanted to take you back to a couple of tours in the 80s. If you have any highlights from like these tours that you can remember, I'd love to hear them, if that's cool with you. Because there's some in that Jeff was talking about. I heard him on a podcast the other day saying that the tour with Dokken and Judas Priest on the Turbo tour in '86.
Oh yeah. Well, I think the best Dokken ever was on the Aerosmith tour.
Okay.
We were a really strong support for Aerosmith. We really made that package a very kind of full package. I mean, people came to see us. It wasn't just like, the lights are still on, get a hot dog, band, go buy a T-shirt. It was like we were trying to be the headliner, and we had been on the road for so many years that we had really gotten to the point where everything was clicking. We're firing on pistons. So that was our peak, I really think. So that was very enjoyable, and gratifying. It felt like we're okay now. We're ready to step up to the big time now. After this, ready to be a headliner. That's what we were working for that whole 8 years. You know, was the point. And I finally felt we had arrived or very close to it.
Was that after Aerosmith cleaned up like the Done with Mirrors, or a little bit later that kind of?
Not allowed to. No alcohol was allowed anywhere, even on days.
Right.
No crew members or band members could be found at a bar in the town, or you would get kicked off. Wow. You were to stay in your dressing rooms. You know, there's no beer allowed in your dressing room or on stage. I mean, it was very, very strict. And
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I heard the DNR tour with them, like similar, like 87, 88, and they had problems because they were completely wild at the time. And they said like Steven and Slash hanging out was not what management were going crazy.
Well, I mean, I don't know why they would hire a band like Guns N' Roses then to be on the tour. And he said, "Oh yeah, Guns N' Roses is going to clean up their act for this tour." Sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the one you did that I saw some videos of the other day was the Monsters of Rock tour, the '88. It was like you, Metallica, and Van Hagar.
Oh well, that was pretty much the pinnacle of it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was the last big tour of that style, I think, and that that kind of giant rock arena tour. I think that was the last one. So, kind of end of an era. Nobody knew it at the time.
No.
But and we were misplaced on that bill. Kind of good for us, I guess, in a way. But we were billed over Metallica.
Yeah.
Hadn't quite gone over the edge yet, to where but we had the same management company.
Yeah. Q Prime.
Yeah. And so we were very fortunate to get that spot. But I'll tell you that the thing that I will never understand about the management and that tour and the band was that in their insane thinking, the management called a meeting started.
Yeah.
And informed the band that Don was going to be leaving the band, breaking the band up and trying to just hire us as musicians.
Yeah.
Own the band. Or else, if that didn't work, we didn't agree to that. He was just going to leave, keep the name, and hire him and kick us out.
And that was before the tour started?
Before the tour started. Literally days before it started. And, and I operate, or at least then operated out of a sense of commitment and on a mission, build this thing as a family, as friends, as a band of brothers. Yeah. And that was really the struggle between Don and I. Don was kind of out for himself, used people as best he could. And I'm not saying this in a derogatory way, but it's just he's built. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing because we succeeded because of him and his and that mentality, the way he views the world and the way he operates. He's able to do things that I personally couldn't do. That's when I wouldn't live with myself. Yeah. He did those compunctions, so he, for better or worse, I don't know if it's good or bad. I can't even say, but we benefited from it. So that. But it also is a double-edged sword, and it worked against us in the sense that I felt we split everything up equal. We all work hard to the best of our abilities. We all contribute what we have to contribute, and a rising tide floats all boats, and we all win. And we have this sense of like we did it together, and there's enough for us to go around. Yeah. Don saw the writing on the wall, and with the manager's help, decided that he wanted the whole thing for himself, because we were up for renegotiation on our contract, and that's where you want to be in this career. When you build yourself up and you double your record sales every record for 3 consecutive years, and then your contract ends and you have to renegotiate that contract, that is exactly where you want to be, because
united.
For life. When you renegotiate, you're negotiating from a position of strength, and then you're Motley Crue. Now you're now you're set for life.
Yeah.
And we all were looking at that, and we'd all worked for that, and we all earned that, and we should have been like patting each other on the back and in a really good place. Instead, Don took that as, well, I'm going to take this all for myself and fuck these guys.
Yeah.
I had to go on stage knowing that every night.
Damn.
It depressed me, and I kind of just fell into drugs and alcohol and just went out and went through the motions,
Yeah.
but back to the audience and looked like the idiot, you know. And it was quite dispirited. I mean, I had some good shows, but I was, you know, maybe just faking it to a certain extent because I was definitely dispirited.
Yeah.
All this for this, and now I have to go out and put on a face.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm just sort of like a wear my heart on my sleeve kind of guy, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
for me to do. It was very depressing, and the only way I deal with it was drugs and alcohol.
Well, I saw somebody the other day say, like, I thought a very funny description was, it said that Dokken was the great band of the 80s, the Platinum Records, MTV, and even Freddy Krueger couldn't save.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, we were, you know, self-destructive in that sense, you know. I mean, you know, it was very, very disappointing. I mean, to this day, you know, I mean, it's water under the bridge. It's been a lot of years. We're all doing fine, and it was, you know, I'm a hopefully optimistic, cautiously optimistic person, and everything's glass half full. So, look, I've been able to do all these wonderful music projects, play with wonderful people, have a nice career, play guitar for a living. I respect that. I try to honor the gift I've been giving and work really hard at it, and not be a spoiled little brat.
Oh no.
My family, and they're all healthy and happy and
Thank
secure.
God. Are you surprised? Are you surprised when you see, because I know you're quite active on Instagram and guitar on Instagram, that kind of stuff. Are you surprised when you see these young guys and girls who are into your legacy of what you did with Dokken, and it's alive and strong, when you see people playing that kind of music and those kind of riffs, that it's still going strong in another generation?
Well, yeah, it mystifies me that when I see that or hear about that, because I think, well, that I don't see the 80s like that. I mean, genuinely, I don't. I see the 80s as sort of this aberration. I mean, I was a huge fan. Grew up with, you know, late 60s rock and rock. And that for me held the promise of, you know, an even brighter future musically. I just, you know, to me, it was just so powerful and said everything. And how do you beat Zeppelin and Hendrix and Jeff Beck and Cream and the Yardbirds and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Dylan and, you know, everybody else, Mountain and UFO and Purple and Robin Trower and on and on and on. All that Bad Company, Free. I mean, all that stuff is just, you know, Humble Pie. It's all right there. What else do you need, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, 1,000 other bands. And then to me, you know, I thought that probably the 80s was the most vacuous period for rock music, with maybe the exception of the punk scene.
Oh, wow.
You know, I mean, there are some exceptions, of course, you know, I mean, you know, but generally speaking, I'm trying to be objective here.
Yeah. Were you impressed when grunge came along, or was that a kind of just, what is this feeling? Was it like more of the 70s? Because those guys grew up through Zeppelin too, but they were taking it their own way, right?
Yeah, no. I felt it was valid once I got my head wrapped around it a little bit. It definitely got, you know, didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
But, you know, I try to see the value in everything, you know. One of those I'm waiting for the 80s to come back, guys, except, you know, it'll be coming back in 2080. Thinking, but, you know, I mean, the angst and transparency and honesty of the grunge movement was, you know, very inspiring and valid, and I get that.
Yeah.
And it made us look silly in comparison. You know, we were very, you know, the 80s scene was very superficial and
but there was so much weight to some of, I mean, you guys especially, but some of those guys, when you look back at them now, like you yourself, Yngwie, I don't know, I'm trying to think, I mean, Randy Rose, those guys, like, still, I personally don't think some of those guys are ever going to be top technically or in the songwriting. Do you know what I mean? So
it was kind of a dead end, you know, it just didn't leave where to go. I mean, especially when you talk about guitar playing speed. I mean, it worked itself into a box, into a corner. I mean, once you got to Yngwie, it's just like, okay, well, you Pelletary and you got you know, this guy and that guy.
Yeah. You can't go faster than this.
Okay, 64th notes. Okay, now what are you going to do? You know, build a robot that plays fast? Why? I mean, and now
Yeah.
tools for self-indulgent guitar solos. Well, what about Hotel California and Stairway to Heaven? I just want to hear some Tom Petty and some ZZ Top.
Yeah.
So worked our way into a box, and then we got spanked, with the grunge movement, and taught us a lesson, and then there's a lot of reevaluation and reconfiguring, and I think sometimes we're just kind of just afloat in the ocean, without a rudder.
Yeah.
Kind of going here and there. There's thing for everybody right now, but there's no rock stars anymore, and
it's a shame. Well, I mean, thankfully you're still here, so there's still at least one. But,
whatever that, yeah.
And Billy Gibbons. But I was going to ask you. Speaking of guitar, I saw you played a guest spot with the original. You were on the original G3 tour, like not the whole tour, but with Satriani, Vi, I think Eric Johnson. You played a show with them, right? So I was going to ask you about that whole scene of.
Mm-hmm. I just came up and did one little walk-on guest thing when they came to Phoenix, because I lived in Arizona at the time.
Yeah.
They did that, I guess, regularly. I was like, went into different towns. What guitar player lives in town? Let's bring him out.
Yeah.
Cool. But I've never been asked to do a G3 thing or anything like that.
Would you do one?
Well, I mean, I guess it would depend. I don't really see myself as that kind of guitar player.
Yeah.
I'm more of a band-oriented guy.
Mm.
And again, I'm not a school theory guy.
Yeah.
Opposite of that. So I just run on inspiration and off the seat of my pants. So, it might be kind of a tough sell for me to go out there and work in that environment where you got guys like Satriani and Vi.
Yeah.
Or machines, prodigies to be able to be the right guy for that. I don't know if I would be, quite honestly.
Yeah. Are you still doing KXM with Ray and Doug?
Yeah, we're working on the 4th record now. We've about 3.5 songs to it. In the fall, I start working on a 3rd Sweet and Lynch record.
Oh, great.
Solo instrumental record called Seamless coming out this summer, and on Rat Pack Records. And then I have a project that's an industrial-esque project I've been working on for a bunch of years, called The Banishment, with Tommy Victor from Prong and Devix and Hayes, a big industrial remix guy that's been my partner in this, and that's called Banishment. That's almost finished and coming out sometime this year as well. So we got a lot of things in the pipeline.
How do you keep that drive when you're putting out such great work and so much of it in so many different projects? How do you keep that going even after a long career, or does it just come naturally?
I look at it like this. It's like if I had a job where I had to actually do something, like air conditioner or go deliver stuff or work in an office, I would have to go there and really work hard. I mean, do stuff like that. I mean, go put somebody's fence up. Okay, I got to stuff. I got to dig the holes.
That's what we're doing today.
I got to know what I'm doing. I have to have all the holes. I have to get out there, bust my ass. And by the time I drag my ass home, I'm gonna be really freaking tired.
Yeah.
I mean, not have enough energy to do much else. Maybe take a shower and wife will make me dinner and watch it and go to sleep and do it again the next day, every single day. Okay. Now me, I sit here. I'm not wearing any pants, by the way. And I'm got my.
No one on Zoom is. Nobody on Zoom is.
I've even left the house today.
Yeah.
I'm doing some Zoom interviews.
Yeah.
Guitar, woohoo, it's so hard. Oh, my fingers are look at the blister on my finger. Little baby. So, So I try to be really responsible towards the fact that I'm lucky enough to be able to do this. So I pay that by working really hard, to serve the passion I've been given, with, and be productive, and responsible, and like make it like a job, like work, work that I love, but be productive and give people what they want, and challenge them in some ways, and some ways just keep them, keep feeding the whatever it is that I'm supposed to be producing,
Yeah, for sure.
All I can do, to show my appreciation for the position that I've been, in life that I'm fortunate enough to have.
Well, sir, that's a beautiful note to end it on. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to speak to you. Hopefully we can do it again on the road.
Yeah, there's that coming up, hopefully. Okay, yeah, later this year. Where are you at?
London.
Oh.
Well, fingers crossed, maybe next year you can come back. Bring the end phase over, end machine over.
Yeah. I would love to. All right. Well, Kahmel, thank you very much for having me on your show. And
thank you, sir. It's been a huge pleasure. Good luck. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.